Hey everybody, this is Dream. Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice 11 game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It helps the channel a lot. Really do appreciate it. With this particular slate, it is a pretty large one, so let's look at the weather first. As for the weather today, it definitely looks like we're going to have some potential weather concerns. We got the Yankees game, the Atlanta game, Minnesota game, Chicago Cubs game, and Kansas City Royal game, all having some weather concerns here. At this point, everything looks like they'll play, but there could definitely be some delays on the slate. So do keep that in mind. Keep those games noted because you may have to change lineups late if somebody gets called out. Let's look at our pitchers today. So pitching is pretty interesting today. It's very top heavy, but we do have some plays that you can kind of mix in there. However, it's going to be a high risk, high reward type of slate when it comes to pitching, when it comes to getting some value here. So let's look at our top two overall plays. Chris Sale being the first one. He's been phenomenal all season long. He's the most expensive on the slate, but he's not that much more expensive than the top four guys overall. And so he definitely hits that P1 option here. He's definitely my favorite play at this position. He's got one of the better matchups, too, of the top expensive pitchers as well. So he definitely has a lot of upside here as a result. He's not given up many home runs this season, and this game's in Atlanta, not in Cincinnati. And that helps him all the way around here today. Looking at Gilbert for Seattle, he's the other guy. This is a P1 option here in a core. He's very close to being core play as well. If there was only one of these two guys and Gilbert and Sale on the slate, I would make either one of them a core play based on that. They both have the best K rates on the slate by far, by a lot too. So Gilbert hasn't been as consistent as Sale has, but he's been solid this season, and he's got the best matchup on the slate. A team he dominated with 9 strikeouts and had 32 fantasy points the last time he played them. I think he's got absolutely fantastic metrics here again, and he's definitely worth a look here, especially with that good K rate as well. And both Chris Sale and Gilbert will be high owned today, so they're definitely going to be cash game plays from that perspective. Let's look at our GPP options. Crochet for the White Sox, he's in play as a contrarian play. Now the problem here is he's only a couple $100 cheaper than Gilbert and Sale, and so down, not paying down much to get a pretty big drop in potential here is not the best thing. He doesn't have the K rate that Sale has. He's been good though, but he's definitely a little bit riskier. Though he's going to be lower ownership, so that's going to be one reason to make him contrarian. However, for cash games, it's definitely probably going to want to go safer. Looking at Wheeler, he's also kind of in a similar position as Crochet, as he doesn't have the best situational matchup either. Though he does have a better chance of getting the win than Crochet does. I think it's still a very risky proposition to use these second two guys, as they are both GPP plays with decent K rates, but they don't have as good of matchups as Sale and Gilbert have. So they're definitely going to be super contrarian here. Some other plays you could look at: Luis Gil, Jose Barrios, uh, Jose Soriano, Colin Ray for Milwaukee, and then John Gray for Texas. All five of those guys have some potential today, but they're high risk, high reward plays. It's going to be hard to utilize any of those guys a lot because they just have such low K rates. There's not a lot of strikeout guys on the slate outside those top four, so it's hard to really love any of those dudes. A couple of Hail Mary plays, though, we do have um, uh, landed a knack here for the Dodgers. Is kind of a Hail Mary play against San Francisco. He's only had 2 games that were really solid this season, but one of them did come against the Giants, and he's going to have that potential again today. And then the other Hail Mary play would be Cooper Criswell. Now he's got a rough slate game. He's been pretty rough this season so far. He's had a couple of good games though, and he's facing one of the weakest teams on the slate, so that definitely gives him some home run or some Hail Mary potential. But he's definitely high risk, high reward. Now I do have 4 players in our bats here with Romy Gonzalez, Rafala, Ref Snyder, and Ian Hop. You could opt to go with a 3 core play option like this with Gonzalez, Rafaela, and Hop, but I do think a Ref Snyder is definitely worth a chance as well today, though he's a little bit pricier than I typically like him to be. But that's just due to the matchup here for Boston. So when we look at this slate from the catching perspective, we see that this is a pretty decent. There's pretty good depth here, but there are top three guys. One being Connor Wong for Boston. He did manage to hit a home run yesterday. He's been pretty solid lately with the hits, and he definitely draws some good potential again today as well. I also like William Contreras from Milwaukee, even though he has not been hitting the ball quite as good lately as he did earlier in the season. He's still drawing fantastic metrics for this matchup, and he's definitely worth a look here. Salvador Perez did hit a home run yesterday as well. He's been on a tear for 4 home runs over the last 10 games, and he's got some nice upside here, though his price is a little higher than I'd like it to be based on the other costs around the slate. The top ownership here will be Gabriel Moreno, Connor Wong, Travis d'Arnaud, and Freddie Perman. d'Arnaud is definitely a sneaky play on the slate. Looking at first base, for Ohtani being the top overall play, he is extremely expensive, obviously. Going to be hard to roster today at this price point, but he's definitely somebody to consider on this one. I also think Romy Gonzalez fits in very well here at first. Now, he can play shortstop as well, but he definitely draws some good hitting metrics today, even though he doesn't have home run upside. He's got good hitting metrics. He's definitely worth a look on the slate as a kind of a core play. Bryce Harper would be the other guy that I would consider, though he is extremely expensive on this one. Michael Busch is a good value play, though, on this slate here at $3,800 for the Cubs. I think the Cubs are kind of a weirdly sneaky stack today, and they do have that situational stackability at times, and he's been really good against Milwaukee this season. Even though the Cubs have been struggling to score runs lately, he definitely draws some good potential on this one. Looking at second base, Bryce Terang from Milwaukee would be the top overall option here. See, at $4,500. Now he definitely has some good metrics today. He's been a little bit inconsistent hitting the ball this season, but right now he's got a good matchup and good metrics, so he's definitely worth a look. Has some home run potential today. Miguel Garcia can play at third base as well. He's been hitting the ball very well the last few games, and I think he's a solid play on the slate at this price point as a contrarian option from Terang. Nico Horner for the Cubs. If you go with a Cubs stack, he's definitely one of the guys I would fit in there, as he's got some nice potential today. And then Jamie Westbrook. He's a guy that is nice and cheap that you could definitely mix in here at second base, and he's got a very favorable matchup here. Now, he had a home run yesterday as well, so you keep that in mind. And it's not that he'll likely do that again, but he's been hitting the ball pretty rough so far this season. So he's kind of a been a bust play, but he's dirt cheap, so that definitely helps you pay up at other positions. The ownership here will be David Schneider, Keto Marte, Gleyber Torres. Torres is kind of sneaky today. Garcia, Leo Jimenez. I wanted to talk about him for a second because he really hadn't played very many games yet, but he has hit the ball decently well in certain games. He doesn't have a lot of upside, but he is a dirt cheap play, and he can also play at shortstop. Garrett Hampson, Brandon Lowe can also play at this position, so to keep that in mind. Looking at third base, Morel for the Cubs is in play today. He has some good metrics again here. He has some home run or bust upside. He's obviously high risk, high reward with that situation, but I do think he's a viable play on the slate. Ryan McMahon for the Rockies. He's been the best player for the Rockies most of the season. Now he is day to day right now. He didn't play last game, but I do think he'll be back today, and if he is, then he's going to have some good potential, though he's a little pricey. Devers has been fantastic this season, hitting lots of home runs. He's got some home run upside again today, and so he's definitely worth a look here in Colorado. And then Miguel Garcia, who I already mentioned, can play here as well. At third base, Vlad Jr., DJ LeMahieu, JD Davis, and Miguel Garcia all can be in the top ownership persuasion here. Looking at shortstop, Romy Gonzalez can also play here at short. But Bobby Witt Jr. Has been absolutely insane lately. He had a monster game yesterday, scoring 37 fantasy points. He's just been hitting the ball crazy. He has 4 straight games with 3 hits. His price is high, but he could definitely be worth it if he continues to hit the ball like this. But Rafaela for this Boston Red Sox also has been hitting the ball pretty solid the last few games, and he definitely has some good potential. And he's almost $2,000 cheaper than Bobby Witt Jr., and he can also play in the outfield, so keep that in mind. The ownership here: Bobby Witt Jr., Leo Jimenez, CD Sedani, Rafaela, and then Ezekiel Tovar. Looking at outfielders, obviously Ref Snyder and Hupp and Rafaela can play here in the outfield, but we have some expensive options. Tyler O'Neill see, Tyler O'Neill for Boston can be one of the expensive plays. Yelich is also somebody that I think has a lot of upside. And then, of course, Otani, who can play at first base as well, is up here in the outfield. Those are my top three when it comes to just pure expensive options that have a lot of upside. But I have a couple of value options here with outside of Ref Snyder, who has been pretty good this season, even though he's not hit a ton of home runs. He definitely draws good hitting metrics today. Same with Ian Happ, though he has been hitting home runs more lately, and he's had a couple last 10 games, but he does draw that home run metric again today, even though he had one yesterday as well. Rafaela can play here, and then Mike Tauchman is kind of an interesting play for the Cubs today, especially if you go with the Cubby stack. He would definitely be one of the guys I would consider in there. Corbin Carroll also draws good favorable metrics today as well for Arizona. Despite the fact that he struggled this season, he's been hitting the ball better recently, so he does have some potential today. The ownership here to Corbin Carroll, David Schneider, Tyler O'Neill, Rob Rep Snyder, Andrew Benintendi, Garrett Hampson. Also, Lourdes, Gurriel, Hunter Renfroe, Sedini, Rafaela, Otani, George Springer, and Charlie Blackmon. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing.